Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. Let's start after a big holiday break in the Italian ecosystem, kind of the usual slowdown of August, I would say, end of July, beginning of August. And now we kind of start again seeing rounds, which probably have been bubbling over the summer, but now we can kind of start seeing again different activity. So let's start from AI. So AI is still kind of holding up in terms of rounds. A lot of interest, a lot of investors still there, despite the fact that the VC overall is kind of on the flat side, I would say, and then maybe we can talk about that at the end. So it's a sad but true story, unfortunately, for Italy. But despite that, AI holds, starting from SkillVue, AI-based HR tech startup raising 2.5 million in a round led by Italian Founders Fund, new fund, very interesting, let's talk about it, and then 14 picks. HR in general has been quite popular among investors, I would say. This is the second investment of Italian Founders Fund in HR technology after Jet HR. So there are a few, pattern there, which I think we were starting seeing. So in brief, what SkillVue essentially is doing is using AI to optimize skill assessment in two phases, which is the hiring phase. So basically they help job offer to assess new recruits and then also assess the current workforce in order to develop their skills. So very interesting angle and quite a good round, I would say. 2.5 is not small for Italy. Is definitely in direction of a late Series A, I would say. Well, the definition always change, but yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's a good news. What's your take, Nick, on this one?
Well, on your last point, I have to say that average rounds are kind of moving up. So I wouldn't go as far as saying that we are aligning to European rounds, but we're getting closer. And I'm seeing a lot of seed rounds being pitched or raised in above 1 million, between 1 million and 3 million range. So things are moving there. And as you can see from the rounds from last week, actually 2.5 is a good average number for seed rounds. So I have to say, appetite for this kind of rounds is increasing, and demand for this kind of rounds is skyrocketing. So nobody's asking 500,000, 200,000, 300,000 anymore, unless they're raising from very small angel syndicates, for example, or pre-seed rounds and funds. So I am witnessing a shift to the right regarding the average rounds being pitched and raised.
Interesting.
And as for the rest, so as you said, so interesting. This is a value proposition from SkillVue, formerly Algo AI, I think. So there is a rebranding here as well. I know the round was closed at the beginning of the summer, something down there. So this is a classic. Let's get back to work and announce the round, as everybody is reading the news. So very happy for them. The founders are very, very young, very skilled. So I'm really looking forward to what they're accomplishing next. So congratulations for the round.
Awesome. So, and very interesting investors, as I was mentioning, Italian Founders Fund, a pretty new player in the Italian ecosystem. This is their third investment. So they invested in Jet HR and then Glout. And the second investor being 14 picks. Basically, it's a holding company. They have 14 portfolio companies between Italy and the US. So very interesting portfolio, very, I would say, extremely nimble and quick holding company, capable of sort of entering in a lot of interesting deals. So that's definitely something worth mentioning. And again, very Italian sort of a player, the holding, like a sort of family office / holding company entering into the startup ecosystem. Very good news for the Italian ecosystem, and definitely like a very valuable provider of capital, expertise, and connection. So that's interesting to notice, I think. Awesome. So let's one thing, as you were mentioning about rounds, I was thinking about the median round in general, in virtue of the fact that companies are working in AI. So looking into some statistics, there is a premium that across different ecosystem of basically essentially, if you are working in AI, your valuation and your median round tend to be like much higher. Then different papers claim different multipliers, so we're not going to debate that. But it's definitely a hot topic. If it's going to stay like that, we don't know. Probably is kind of feeling. It feels like still like on the hype, on the tail of the hype, which slowly is deflating. But I think is like getting there and getting like balanced. I don't know what's your feel, Nick, but
I agree with you. I think that the key. I think the key point that you mentioned is that it is slowly deflating. So if you take a look at the median and the average right now, you've got a trailing indicator. So I mean, you would look at numbers of rounds happened just a few months ago, and things have changed quite a lot. We moved from there is AI, so we should invest here, to there is AI. I mean, go figure.
Yeah.
Tell me something new. So I think there will be a revert to the mean on average, with still hot deals on the top end. Look at the 1 billion raised by the other OpenAI guy. And the other rounds more or less reverting to some sort of mean, just because the expectation of building on AI, with AI, for AI is baked into every single deal. So if you pick the average today or the median today, and you pick the same numbers in 6 months, so things will be probably quite different.
Yeah, no, that's good. So good news for people coming in AI investment right now. Bad news for people that have invested in average deals like 2 years ago or last year. But we'll see. It's still
early to tell.
Early to tell. It might be. Awesome. Let's talk about the second very interesting like AI deal of last week. So IdentifAi, a Milan-based startup developing a technology to identify AI fakes. So that's an interesting topic in itself, raising 2.2 million in a round led by United Venture. So here we're opening a huge can of worms, I think. The deepfake and the AI generated images, and then definitely they're going to play on videos as well, as the video technology is developing extremely fast. They're developing like a proprietary system to actually detect AI generated content, especially visual content. Very interesting, very tough problem. Yeah. What's your take on this one?
No, I agree with you. It is an important problem, and this is probably the right time to invest in this kind of vertical, because I believe that the next elections in the US will, as you said, open this kind of worms. So I mean, everybody knows about it at this moment. So I mean, it's clear that deepfakes are being used and will be used, but the US elections are kind of the big festival of let's try new technology to move the opinion of the masses. It was social media for 8 years ago. 4 years ago, it was a bit of AI automation, and say social media. This time will be social media plus fakes.
That's very interesting. Also,
to invest here.
And I think also there is going to be like a more of a retail component, which is how exactly consumer will think about it, because deep faking is, it's people are experimenting, like actors kind of lending their voice and images to deep fakes to make movies and pictures and monetizing off of that. There has been like some play of that kind. How is the public going to react? I mean, when are we going to watch a movie which is like deep faked? versus like a real movie with real people. I mean, more on a commercial note of this one. So it's an ethical problem on one side. I don't think it's a technology that it's probably going to be rejected, or hey, this thing is fake, so it's by default bad. There is some silver lining there. Well, it's a different problem probably. Like the first problem is really to assess, the authenticity of content. So being it, exactly, and avoiding cases where it's doubtful.
I agree with you. So those are different problems. So the problem with deepfake movies is that, well, you will know quite soon whether it is deepfake or not, because the actor will say, hey, that's not me, that's a deepfake, and it's the tip of the iceberg. So the problem is when somebody will be listening to a podcast by Nick and Jack, and we will say that this and this and this, they suck, and if we don't come out saying, hey, this is not us,
massive PR problems. For sure.
So it's the underwater part of the iceberg. That's where the current risks, the current potential issues for society at large, meaning what. So it's a matter of trust at this point. So what do you trust anymore? So potential dystopic future is that you shouldn't trust anything that you read, watch, hear.
Yeah, I wonder when regulator would step in, like in Europe, the cookie story. When every site you visit now in Europe, you need to accept the cookies because they've been sending us cookies forever. Now we now know about that, and we need to agree. So our regulator gonna be basically forcing people or companies that produce fakes to actually put a stamp there, making sure that people see that this is AI generated. I mean, there might be this topic at some point where government is probably.
I'm not sure whether they will go towards the direction of you are using employing the fakes or AI to produce content, and this company should say that. They probably will ask, but if you're doing it in a legit way, that's okay. If you're copying Tom Cruise will sue you unless you have licensed his image. If you have licensed his image, you stamp it's AI, more or less. I wonder how do you block rogue actors pushing deepfakes on social media, for example? I think European approach would be to pick the social media platform and say, hey, fix this. And social media platform would be, okay, I'll try, or why should I? And we are again in the same type of dialogue that we've seen for the last couple of decades since social media has been around. One of the worst case scenarios, Facebook decides just to pull out of Europe just because, I can't do anything. Bye Europe, as some are doing with the most advanced AI models. Sorry,
that's a great point.
They're not deploying them to Europe because it's impossible to comply with the regulation. We don't want to comply with the type of regulation. So
that's a good point.
That will be an interesting thing to witness in the coming years.
Yeah, and since you were mentioning that, it totally feels like when social media are kind of filtering out and blocking inappropriate content posted according to guidelines. So maybe that could be the approach where social media would have such a precise engine detecting deepfakes and not allowing user to actually post those, to avoid posting adult content on Facebook or Instagram.
And this is where IdentifAi comes to play. So if it works, that's fundamental.
Interesting angle. Yeah, very interesting angle. Awesome, fantastic. All right, let's go back to space. So again, Italy is hot on AI and space. Seems not to stop. Let's talk about Involve Space. Space tech startup raising again a nice round, 2.5, very solid, led by Earlybird Capital. So Earlybird is a Berlin venture capital firm, pan-European. They invest across Europe, and let's definitely talk about that. So just briefly, Involve Space makes Stratospheric balloon technology. So they're working on specific balloon technology for real-time Earth monitoring, telecommunication, and infrastructure. So a lot of elements here. And what is interesting, I thought, talking about product, is that space is not just the deep space. There is like very many different layers that are involved into the space economy. So people forget that. They always think about satellite and colonizing Mars, but actually, very useful technology like weather monitoring through like high altitude balloons, that's even more helpful actually, and probably more impactful. So that's interesting.
Yeah, nice point. I agree. Very nice. And I have one last bit on this round, since Earlybird led this investment, and Crunchbase tells me that this is the first investment by Earlybird in Italy since a while, couple of decades almost. So nice. Another data point about
Awesome.
international funds finding good deals in Italy. So
Awesome.
positive.
All right, let's conclude this episode by talking about Buddyfit. Buddyfit is an online fitness platform, very well known in Italy and backed by investor and soccer players actually. So that's a very, very good case study. Basically, what happened is that 7NXT, which is a company backed by Oakley Capital, acquired Buddyfit, and now basically they're shooting to make like one of the biggest fitness and mindfulness platform in Europe. So a few words about Oakley Capital. So Oakley Capital is a European fund. They have 6 funds raised since 2013. Total is about 6 billion under management of asset under management. Every fund is roughly 200 to 500 million. Interesting because I think they're also investor in Facile.it back in 2000, in the early 2000s. So they have some, outpost in Italy looking for deals. So very interesting. But Oakley Capital, of course, firstly backed 7NXT, which is a German company, one of the biggest German company in fitness and mindfulness, owning 2 brands, Gimondo and 7Mind, and very well known in Germany and in the Germanic country, I would say. This acquisition marks really their expansion in Spain and Italy through this acquisition like playbook. So that's relevant and a very interesting, and we see this pattern and this way of growing companies and reach escape velocity for European startups, which is by acquisition. So that's something particularly interesting, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important point. I mean, that has to do with a lot of variables. The local market that you are able to acquire as a company. Italy is 1/5 of the US. Even if you aim for Europe, I mean, Europe is roughly the same size as US, but it's different countries with different languages, so the speed of acquisition is slower. So there is a potential opportunity for bigger, larger corporations starting in the US for acquiring local companies here. So the dynamics, several dynamics at play.
Yeah. And that made me think of the difference of scaling between USA and Europe. I mean, USA, you have a big customer base. Scaling can happen much quicker. Same language, different ways of. Basically, it's just quicker because endemically there is like a less barrier. Europe is different because, of course, even if you grow in your own country, then you will hit like a glass ceiling, and that glass ceiling is just given by language and local regulation, which is not the same as in the US. So acquisition makes sense. I mean, Buddyfit was not a huge startup. Their revenue was around 3 million euro per year. I think they hit 3 million in 2023. And I mean, the German company acquiring Buddyfit basically immediately got access to a different market. So it makes perfect sense. I think it's around 800,000 users on the Italian platform, so very substantial. And that's a difference on how you scale between US and
the US and the Europe. Exactly.
In Europe, yeah, awesome. That's it for this week, and I'll see you next week.
So, Jack, thank you so much. And everybody, ciao. See you in a week.